Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's continuing deadly attacks across the Gaza Strip despite the ceasefire with Hamas that went into effect October 10th. Gaza health officials say at least 13 Palestinians were killed, 8 others wounded by Israeli fire over the past 24 hours. The killings came as the World Health Organization warned many of the 170,000 Palestinians injured by Israel's assault on Gaza will need rehab care and support for years to come, with some 42,000 facing life-changing injuries. This is Mahmoud al-Nakhala, a displaced Palestinian who sought care for his daughter at Gaza City's Al-Daraj clinic, which was repeatedly bombed by Israel.
My wife, mother, and my 2 daughters were killed, and my daughter Dana was seriously injured. Currently, we are at the hospital. There are no treatments or any medical supplies. There are even flies and mosquitoes everywhere. We didn't even have a mattress. We brought it from outside the hospital. There are no blankets or medical supplies. We are suffering greatly.
Earlier today, Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in Israel for talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu amidst reports Netanyahu's preparing to collapse the U.S.-brokered ceasefire. Vance is joining Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, in the talks. In the occupied West Bank, the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Office says it's documented 71 attacks by Israeli settlers against Palestinians and their property in just 1 week. Among the victims is a 55-year-old woman who was hospitalized with a brain hemorrhage after she was beaten unconscious by a masked Israeli settler wielding a club. Independent journalist Jasper Nathaniel, who filmed Sunday's violence against Palestinian olive farmers in the occupied West Bank village of Turmasaya, compared the Israeli settlers' attack to a lynch mob. Meanwhile, Palestinians have held a funeral for Mohammed al-Halak, a 10-year-old who was fatally shot in the pelvis as he fled Israeli soldiers who raided his village south of Hebron last week. He'd been playing soccer in a schoolyard when Israeli military vehicles approached. A federal appeals court has ruled President Trump can deploy the National Guard to Portland, lifting a lower court's restraining order that had blocked Trump from sending troops to the city. Oregon's Attorney General Dan Rayfield said if the ruling stands, it would give Trump, quote, unilateral power to put Oregon soldiers on our streets with almost no justification, adding, we are on a dangerous path in America, unquote. Meanwhile, a federal judge in Chicago questioned federal immigration authorities Monday about using tear gas against protesters and journalists, violating a previous court order preventing ICE from deploying tear gas against crowds. This comes as another court has denied granting a restraining order to stop Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee from deploying the National Guard in Memphis. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's defending the purchase of 2 luxury private jets for herself and other DHS officials, costing more than $170 million in public funds. The U.S. Coast Guard's acquisition of 2 Gulfstream G700 jets comes as the federal government shutdown is in its 21st day, hampering federal nutrition assistance and other public aid for millions of people nationwide. In a statement, Democratic Congressmember Benny Thompson slammed the multi-million-dollar purchase as, quote, blatantly immoral and probably illegal, unquote. This comes as ICE has spent over $70 million more on weapons for its agents since Trump returned to office, a 700% increase. This includes the purchase of explosives, chemical weapons, and guided missile warheads as immigration raids and crackdowns on protesters intensify across the United States. Colombia's government has recalled its ambassador to the United States as tensions rise with the Trump administration over its repeated extrajudicial military strikes on boats in the Caribbean, many off the coast of Venezuela. The U.S. has blown up at least 7 boats in the region, killing over 24 people, as officials claim without evidence the vessels are carrying drugs. Colombian President Gustavo Petro addressed the threats in an exclusive interview Monday with Univision.
The anti-drug policy of the United States is a policy of dominance over Colombia and Latin America. They've killed 1 million Latin Americans, and the demands for cocaine in the United States has not decreased by a single gram, and it's also increasing in Europe. That is called domination, and it's what made Trump so angry. That is why I said he's preparing an invasion of Venezuela, not because of drug trafficking. Those are lies.
In Japan, the former economic security minister, Sanai Takaichi, has made history as the nation's first female prime minister. She is an arch-conservative protege of the late former leader Shinzo Abe, who ran under the slogan, Japan First. She holds a revisionist view of Japan's history in World War II and is a regular visitor to the Yasukuni Shrine, where some convicted war criminals are memorialized. Takaichi is a longtime admirer of Britain's first female prime minister, Margaret Thatcher. She's consistently opposed legislation that would allow women to keep their maiden names after marriage. She's also opposed to marriage equality. The Trump administration fired 2 federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia after they voiced opposition to the criminal case against New York Attorney General Letitia James. That's according to CBS News, which reports the firings of Assistant U.S. Attorneys Kristen Byrd and Elizabeth Yusi continue an ongoing purge in the office after Trump forced out his own hand-picked interim U.S. Attorney, Eric Siebert, for refusing to bring charges against James and former FBI Director James Comey. Trump replaced Siebert with his personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan, an insurance lawyer with no prosecutorial experience. On Monday, lawyers for James Comey asked a federal judge to throw out the criminal charges against him, arguing Halligan is unlawfully installed as U.S. attorney, a position that requires Senate confirmation. They also argued Trump's repeated public statements calling for Comey to be jailed show Comey was the victim of a selective prosecution. A former Justice Department lawyer speaking out about illegal orders he received while working under President Trump's hand-picked Assistant U.S. Attorney General, Emile Beauvais. Whistleblower Erez Uveni told 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley Beauvais instructed attorneys at a meeting they may have to consider telling a court F you, though Beauvais used the expletive. The order came as the Trump administration rushed to send a plane full of immigrants to be imprisoned in El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, SECOT, without trial.
Beauvais emphasized those planes need to take off no matter what. And then after a pause, he also told all in attendance, and if some court should issue an order preventing that, we may have to consider telling that court, you.
And when you heard that, you thought what?
Felt like a bomb had gone off. Here is the number 3 official using expletives to tell career attorneys that we may just have to consider disregarding federal court orders.
In a statement, Emile Beauvais called Uveni's claims a, quote, mix of falsehoods and wild distortions of reality, unquote. Beauvais was confirmed by the Senate in July to a lifetime appointment as a federal appeals court judge. President Trump's nominee to lead the Office of Special Counsel, Paul Ingrassia, texted a group of Republicans that he has a Nazi streak, adding that the Martin Luther King holiday should be, quote, tossed into the 7th circle of hell, unquote. The comments were among a slew of racist texts from Ingrassia published by Politico on Monday. Following their publication, Senate Majority Leader John Thune signaled Ingrassia's nomination is unlikely to be advanced by a Senate committee at a confirmation hearing scheduled for Thursday. This follows Politico's publication of an image of an American flag altered to include an image of a swastika that was displayed inside the Capitol Hill office of Republican Congressman Dave Taylor. Taylor later disavowed the symbol, claiming his office was targeted as part of an orchestrated campaign against Republicans. This all comes after President Trump appeared to use a white nationalist dog whistle in a recent speech to military leaders in Quantico, Virginia. Trump claimed without evidence that under President Biden, immigrants murdered 11,488 people.
7,488 murders allowed into our country by this guy who had no clue. He had no clue.
The speech was likely written by Trump's anti-immigrant advisor, Stephen Miller. It appears to be a reference to the number 1488, a coded rallying cry for militant white nationalists. 7 universities have declined to sign a compact to agree to the Trump administration's demands regarding admissions, campus hiring policies, and speech in classrooms in exchange for federal funding. The letter was sent to 9 universities earlier this month. The universities rejecting the compact include University of Arizona, Brown University, Dartmouth College, MIT, the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Southern California, and the University of Virginia. Vanderbilt University reportedly expressed reservations, while the University of Texas signaled it was open to signing the compact. And the White House has started demolishing part of the East Wing to begin building President Trump's $250 million gold-gilded ballroom. The demolition comes despite the fact that the National Capital Planning Commission, a federal agency responsible for major renovations to government buildings in Washington, D.C., has not approved the construction work. Last week, Trump held a White House dinner to thank donors from Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the weapons industry for funding his ballroom. According to the Wall Street Journal, representatives from Lockheed Martin, Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon.com, and Palantir all attended the dinner, with some offering as much as $25 million. Democratic Congressman Darren Soto wrote on social media, quote, "Trump's billionaire ballroom. This is a disgrace. Welcome to the second Gilded Age." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.